Boom. Salutations. I always enjoy trying to connect experiences, researching them, following through, and connecting them. Alright? And this particular subject, I'll tell you why I took a personal interest in it. And how I put some of this together, what I'm experiencing, and we'll go from there. So you're kind of going to go on kind of a journey with me here. And we're going to talk about these things, so please enjoy the pictures that will be between the different sections of this video. And I'll briefly touch on those, and then it's for you to do your own research and follow up on some of these things, alright, and find out and discover for yourself. Some people always want me to do longer videos. This one's a little longer, but it's not about me sitting here and being long-winded and looking as studious so other people can just be parrots and mimic it. That's not what it's about. This is about us doing self-enrichment. The reason why I have a particular interest in this is two experiences that I'll go over, alright? And one is that something that happened, it's a missing event, time that involved missing time, but it was experiencing that, that something that happened immediately after I could remember what had happened. Some of it really alarmed me, alright, in terms of something about where I'm actually from. And people often laugh, but the truth is, I'm from the air capital of the world. The air capital of the world is the city I grew up in. And there's a very large Air Force base on the side of the town, on the east side. So, I mean, things like this connection has happened, these contact experience happened with missing time. I thought sometimes, something happened as far as the government, did they get me or something, or is there a reason that I'm this missing time? Did something happen that was concerning military or something like that? It didn't seem like it, but didn't feel like it either, but I couldn't be sure, could there be screen memories and things like that. And the reason why I want to go over this is because this experience here, when I had encountered this, okay, which is this synaptic helmet, and I've talked about this in other videos on my channel, that I've done this experience exactly, so I won't go into too much detail about it. But the thing about this experience was, this was a pure conscious craft, which means the craft actually materializes around you as opposed to beaming you away. Alright, and when experiencing this, when it finally ditched the wise, was around me, this helmet had come down from the ceiling. And this was a physical experience again, okay? And this thing had come over, and it was, I'm getting, information. You're always getting telethought as this is going on. And that's what I was picking up synaptic helmet to help to have a frame of reference for this experience. And that's pretty much taking it and keeping it real, alright? And I mean, the next room in this room was something I've talked about before. It's this room that looked like these black holes, these makos opening and closing, alright? Very unstable room. It was very sick to be in there. I'm kind of holding onto that black beam you see in the middle. That's this illustration here, okay? This is the same craft. The next thing is this room, alright? Where it looked like it almost seemed cave-like in a way. And these stalagmites, I think you want to call it, not stalactites, excuse me. Oh Lord, I get that wrong. People always clown you if you get that word wrong. Anyway, they were coming down from the ceiling, and there were these cocoon-looking things, these honeycombs, with the hexagon again, which is, once again, dealing with the hexagon and the energy, this life energy that some of these beings are using that are on the higher vibration. And then there were these lights around it, and it emerged was a light beam, okay? A lot of people have seen light beings similar to that. And I'm getting that this is so that I have a frame of reference to even have this communication. And I think probably for when they're down here, here in this dimension and doing work themselves, right? When dealing with that, after that experience, it tried me in terms of the missing time, remembering the helmet, remembering these things. The further you get away from the event horizon itself, the more things get kind of like that, the memory retention gets even more difficult. So, I spent a long time trying to figure out, what happened. Was it, could have been government oriented or whatever? It didn't seem like it. But then, in 1996, or yeah, 97, 96, I came across the work of Dr. Carla Turner. And Dr. Carla Turner had talked about virtual reality technologies. And that's what had come through that I was dealing with here, was a virtual reality scenario technology. I'd always called it that, because I used to think about the people that were wearing it. Back when I was a teenager, you had in the mall, you had a guy wearing the helmet and the visor and the machine you set in. But they've taken virtual reality a lot further than that now. But this being actually used to confuse and deceive people is what I was getting about this helmet, okay? During this experience, they're telling me it's, in my head, I'm getting that it's a frame of reference for the contact itself, but this technology has been corrupted by lower vibrational beings to deceive people. Okay, so that means virtual reality was an issue when dealing with some of these beings, especially ones that can project virtual reality and consciousness through their eyes and awareness through their eyes and the optical nerves. So these are things I became aware of. Carla Turner's book, the first one I saw was Masquerade of Angels, and pretty much everything that happened to her in most of her books were pretty negative, all right, and then she wound up passing. So that really put me on red alert, and it sent me into something delving into deep into hypnosis and things to find out missing time and make sure I wasn't suffering from quote unquote screen memories. So that's why when dealing with this subject, when I first came forward, I had a lot of people trying to tell me, oh, you're a part of MJ12. No, I wasn't. All right, I know, because I've dealt into my experiences deeply to find exactly that type of stuff out. Have I suffered from screen memories? That is not what has happened to me. I've had positive contact experiences. That when I put up those charts from Ray Hernandez and the CCRI Foundation showing the amount of people that have had positive contact. It's way more skewed to those that have had negative. But you've got this thing going on, this deception with technology that we're going to talk about. And I'm not by any means an expert on this, all right, because I'm not experienced that. But I have been warned about some things in my experiences, so I follow up and try to figure out exactly what this is. So anyway, this is something to be just aware of, all right? I'm going to go through my list to make sure I've got everything I want to try to knock off to you while I'm here. Again, the positive contact scenario. Not all contact is scenario. Not all of the thousands of extraterrestrials that are here that we don't hear about are positive. I'm not saying that at all. But a lot of us have had positive contact like me. It may be hard to decipher, but it is what it is, as opposed to this negative and the negativity and what's being done that I've been warned against here, all right? Anyways, this is going to concern targeted people and really what that is. And this is a very, very, very interesting situation. So we're going to go from there. And I want to talk about the next experience that leads me to want to also further explore this and to plug into what happened with my personal experiences, and also in light and put light on what I've always believed is happening, and now I can kind of back it up a little bit. And so we're just going to go forward with this and hang out with me, please. Boom! Salutations, part 2. So this is the other experience that brings me to really want to know why it is that there's such a different of experiences and things that actually continue the story and connect even more pieces, all right? This experience would be the acid rain experience, all right? Once again, I've got another video on this channel that is actually going over this experience, all right? So I'm gonna let you can probably link it, but that's explained even better there. But the thing is, as opposed to just the whole acid rain part that I've described on here before, and the things that were going on with that, opposed to that is the information that Yandar here was telling me and they're giving me telepathically, like all at once. It's coming through so much, all this information that it took me time, after that to really decipher everything that was communicated in these brief bursts that were often answering questions before I could formulate them in my mind. But during this experience, he conveyed to me that there was an energy field. Okay, first would be these bases that are on the planets outside of Pluto. I've talked about that before, all right? And these bases being jumping off points for them to this density in our solar system, because they have problems with the density. And that they use these are like these bases on the third and fourth planets outside of Pluto that they use, and that there's this net in this solar system that is going from basically, I think it's Saturn to Mars to the backside of our moon, but it's this scalar frequency that we come in here. It has electrical properties and other things that kind of, I think, shock us and helps us in the loss of soul life memories. So that's something that he had conveyed to me then. And I always wanted to know, where does the second part of this go on? And where does that continue at, all right? Just another picture in there during this experience, in the engine I've seen twice, actually. And that was during that experience too. But this is more about the information he had relayed to me, all right? So I wanted to know, what if that's being done, and I found out, since then, this is a real thing, and how is it that it is actually connected, and what happens after that? How is this dark force type of modality implemented after that? So, going to something interesting, all right? I'm doing this remote viewing shows with Jessica Jones, where I've done several of them with her now, and I will give her blind targets. One of the blind targets I gave her was actually what would be called the third and fourth trans-Neptunian objects that exist outside of Pluto there. That's something I've mentioned in the other videos, that I didn't, when I was told about these third and fourth planets outside of Pluto, I thought maybe he was lying to me, because there was no such thing. They had barely found Charon, the moon, at that time. So, but since then, when I was probably 30-something, they announced that they found trans-Neptunian objects, that Kuiper belt outside of Pluto there. And the third and fourth planets of that, or third and fourth objects, are Make, and Huma. And also I started picking up, been giving her the targets that Setna's active now also. So anyway, I gave this to her, and if these bases didn't exist, nothing was there, she won't hit anything on these blind targets. They're just numbers. She has no idea what it is. But during this, she hit on these bases and on these things, and things saying that, ticking bomb. And, they're talking about the Earth, watching the Earth, and watching the thing that's happening here. So I wanted to go over that a little bit, and then also tie into another blind target that I gave to Jessica Jones, that was the TRAPPIST-1 solar system. Okay, and most people probably know what that is now. But it's got the 2, 3, and 4th planets there, I think, there's like 4 or 5 of them in the Goldilocks zone. But there's 2 of them there, and I gave her the target of one of these, all right? And the first thing she starts asking me, and their data's showing, is these things like these high rises and these almost human type of establishments, and she's asking what city this is. And the next thing is the slavery. What city is this that openly practices slavery like that? And when I gave her that target, I wanted to see how much what she saw and the data she collected was similar to what was on Linda Moulton Howe's Earth Files, that gentleman Buddy Bolton that's doing her remote viewing, and he picked up these certain creatures that were like aquatic and some ships in the solar system and stuff like that. I want to see how much she caught that was similar to that. But she picked up a lot, but a lot of it was this slavery thing, very dominant. And, I take that and tie that over into, I put some pictures of him up too, Tony Rodriguez, who I met a couple of times now, very cool cat. And when I met him and we talked to the airport, we were talking for a long time. I wasn't familiar with his story that much then. And the first thing he's telling me, he's not saying, hey, I'm not a super soldier, SSP super soldier. He kept telling me I was a slave. And he kept it, and then he started explaining that. It was quite emotional when he did it. So I think that's quite real. Okay, and then taking that and tying that into TRAPPIST-1 and even kicking it back to that Earth Files. I talked about that gentleman, William Tompkins, that was, I just did another video about that one on here, and about how he was saying that there are thousands of galaxies and how many of them, or how many of the civilizations in the Milky Way, of the thousands of civilizations, are practicing slavery of different type. And that takes us we can cross-reference that. Someone in another video mentioned the McElroy material to me. Read that years ago when it came out. Technically, what they're saying, what that being was describing, is like a galactic empire, similar to a Star Wars scenario. I don't think that's all so far off, no matter how you look at it. We've got something going on there that's dealing with this slavery, this negativity thing, and the enslavement of other beings and their consciousness. So that's very, very serious. And might I say that what we're about to go into here, I believe 100% is an attempt to hijack the contact scenario and also copy the contact scenario, but copy the divine oversoul, and also try to copy that and steal it, hijack it. And I believe that's trying to be done through this system that we're going to talk about the rest of this video and this part 3 that's going to be coming up here. So anyway, tying this TRAPPIST-1, William Tompkins, Tony Rodriguez, all this into this slavery thing and what Jessica had seen. And that's, so whatever I think probably Buddy saw, Jessica was seeing more recent, whatever, even the light we're seeing coming from there was billions of years ago. So whatever's going on there now is current, something different. Anyway, someone else that I had met at the conference I went to, the Journey to Truth conference, was a lady named, say it right, Desiree Foley. And she said she was a targeted individual. And I've met other people that also told me they were targeted individuals. At that conference there were several, and a few I've talked to before, but not as intense as what I started hearing that and what she was saying also. It was absolutely fascinating. The way she'd actually approached me in conversation was, she came up and said, there are not a whole lot of black people in this whole thing at all. I was like, no, not really. She says, but they're no Mexicans. She find another one except me. And I couldn't help but start laughing. But then she told me her story. We got to talking for a long time. And as a targeted individual, what she presented me is she showed me like spectrograms of her body where it's producing superconductor frequencies, and also her blood containing high amounts of nanites and things that are like nanotechnology and things that's more than what you'd almost even breathe from the chemtrails. So that's fascinating. And then what she said she'd been through as far as traumatizing and feeling like she was one of these super soldiers and things, and it's quite interesting, So anyway, I wondered why I was kind of guided to that conference. That's one of the reasons, were to meet those several people that were these target individuals that were giving me a whole nother aspect that shows how this frequency, once we come through here and get tagged as contactees, what is the next thing that happens, all right? How they start actually targeting individuals and how that's going down. So that's serious, and I didn't know. Look, I did not have those type of experiences, so I'm not an expert on any of this, all right? But I can know how many deeds make five. So anyway, I think, oh, I know what it is. I'm sorry, before I finish this up. When Jessica had remote viewed the bases, okay, without knowing what this is, in her data she's putting down scalar nets, electrical nets, And so there's like all this is like surrounding this and going forward. So that's something else that came up in the data. She had no idea what that was, okay? But that's this net I'm talking about. She picked up on this in her data. All right, so anyway, we'll go to the next part that's really going through some of the technology that's being used to implement this on targeted individuals, and also why I think so many people have this SSP Super Soldier thing that's so similar to each other, and also why out of the hundreds and some people I've talked to now that tell me that it's SSP or something, why I don't feel what I call Artron energy coming off of a lot of them, meaning they don't feel like contactees. So it makes me question if they've been on board these craft or been around these beings, or otherwise the people that have, I can detect it. A lot of people can detect it on me, all right? But a lot of these individuals that tell me they've been to Mars, they've been to Moon, and all these other places, I don't feel that energy coming off them. It makes me doubt some things, but why is it this is happening to them? Why is it negative? Why would they think it's 100% real? And for some it probably is, but for some I think they're being exposed to this technology. So please check out the pictures coming up. There's several of them. Jot down the names, the things, do your own research and discover about this technology, and know that it's even further than what I'm presenting now. The stuff I'm presenting is, I'm sure, way old, and how much they're able to actually brain hack and go into the cerebral cortex and alter things and influence us and put voices in our heads and all these things. So anyway, and our heart goes out to those that get that. Boom! Salutations. Hey, something that I missed on the last segment at the end when I mentioned Desiree Foley. She actually runs an organization called PACS International, PACTS International. It stands for People Against Covert Torture and Surveillance International. So it's interesting, you know, they're on top of all this and dealing with a lot of this stuff, and like I've said, there are a lot of people that have far more information, far more knowledge, and experts on this than I. These are not my experiences, all right, but my heart does go out to those that are targeted individuals, those that have had these negative experiences and are going through this, all right. So much love and much excuse me, much sympathy to those people. All right, so what we're talking about here is basically neuro weaponry of all different types, all right, and neuroscience also. And what I'm going to do is actually kind of go through my notes here in my list. I've got several of them, pages of this stuff, and just kind of hit some of the things for the many pictures you just saw. All right, you'll see again at the end of this video. But that I think gives you a place to start and do your own research and take it further than I am. All right, and these are the things that really caught my attention. All right, one is, of course, who are the people that are actually doing this and starting this and doing these experiments. You've got DARPA, you've got MK Ultra, and some of these other initiatives like the Brain Initiative and these other things that are going on, and that's trying to dealing with basically mind control, if nothing else, by all means. Right, so I want to kind of put that out and how they're doing a brain decoding, like brain decoding software and things through neuro-linguistic programming, and how they're getting really into our brains dealing with that. So when dealing with these neuro weapons, I think the first one we should address is the auditorial ones, the auditory weapons, neuro weapons. And you've got like several different types, ones that employ the microwave hearing effect, also the microwave auditorial effect, by using, so they can use something that's called the audio spotlight, which is actually focusing sound into a beam, a narrow beam, similar to like controlling it the way light is controlled also. And when dealing with this, you can hit each ear with the same sound, and it starts actually activating things and going and actually activating different parts of the brain that allow for cerebral programming and for decoding of the brain itself, and also the reconstruction of brain, the reconstruction of dreams, false visions, things of that nature. So when looking at this and this type of this microwave auditorial effect, the hearing effect, there's this thing that's called LRAD. LRAD stands for long range acoustic delivery. That's those things they're using. And I think when I did a video concerning the whales, the pilot whales, and how their tails have been turned, and it's very odd that when they've been found beached, and how that looks to me like that's some type of an acoustic weapon or something, some type of a sound weapon. Similar, I think that's what we're dealing with right there, is something like what LRAD is dealing with. Neural monitoring, all right, and dream reconstruction. That's going into the dreamscape, actually reconstructing people's dreams. And when you get even to more in some of this, we'll talk about is them actually, going in and trying to actually not just reconstruct dreams, but also copying the person's consciousness and giving false third eye visions. Whatever. So, artificial dreams, all right, hive mind networks using brain-to-brain interface, and that takes us into what like MIT and them were studying called the monkey brain and the monkey consciousness and things of that nature, computer-wise especially. That's fascinating, artificial intelligence-wise. So the hive mind networks and brain-to-brain interface is how that starts. All right, very important when you're dealing with how many of these people are having these same experiences, all right, and they're claiming the same things. They're flying these ships, they're hanging up these hybrids, they're making plasma weapons, they're doing all these different things, and they all say the same thing to me, that it's like there's another them, a double them that's doing this somewhere else. Okay, that's part of this technology people are being exposed to. And the people like DARPA and MK Ultra, who are they going to expose? They don't have a control population exactly. So the main people they're going to hit is the homeless, then the prison populations, and the next that's been targeted is the contact psychic medium population. That's what they're targeting next. And that's why this whole SSP thing and how this is coming through, and that's going to be very real. This type of technology, it's going to seem as 100% real as the experiences I had. All right, so although they'd be different, but it wouldn't, you'd think it was real. Okay, anyway, moving on. Past the hive mind and brain-to-brain interface, this is important here. RHIC, which is remote hypnotic intercerebral control. And that can be done through what's called radio hypnosis, which is something old. But anyway, so that's important. Remote hypnotic intercerebral control. Alright, that can be done at a distance, the same way LRAD can be projected at a distance. Alright, another one, Alice, the MIT Chatterbox. You can look that up, the Alice Chatterbox. It like does all these different computer languages and languages producing. It's very odd. But anyway, it's this technology though. These ones that we're just seeing now in transparency. Think about how much is really that much further. It's probably 40 years ahead of stuff they're using on people right now for targeted individuals. Okay, this is something that you can use these things to walk people to their death. All right, and I'm going to bring this up too, which is the voice of God technology, which is the actually this whole auditorial thing can be used as this voice of God projecting voices into people's head. And right now, if you think about the amount of mass shootings you have all over the world right now, especially in America, and how many of these people are saying, I heard voices had me do it. And how much of that is just not a natural brain chemical imbalance versus this auditorial effect weapons these people are getting hit with. Okay, next, this creates sleeping. They can help people walk people to their death, talk them to their death. It creates hidden sleeping assassins and assassins that are hidden underneath a mental illness. They're making that mental illness is very popular right now, and it's up front forward. And we think people are just mentally ill, and it's not the fact that they've been programmed by this technology to be a Manchurian candidate or whatever, a mass murderer, False third eye projections, I kind of went into that. They're using also nanodust and nanoparticles and chemtrails, and they're using that to actually control and help rewire and recontrol the cerebral cortex also. And that Desiree Foley again, she had shown me a test to her that was done with certain nanoparticles and things in her blood that were way over what it should be. One of them was like even iridium. That's like a meteor deal. So anyway, hive mind, brain to brain. Something else, TAMI, T-A-M-I, thought and memory interface technology. All right, you've got some scientists that you come across like Jose Delgado, that was the maker of the computer chips, saying that we need to have AI brains. He was promoting all that. What the heck? That's going pretty far back. Donald Ewan Cameron, he was the scientist that was doing those unethical brain experiments. All right. They've also used ion cyclotron resonance for heating calcium C2, and then using ultrasonic mapping of brain patterns to alter brain patterns. And I think that's done through something that's called a magnetoencephalograph, which is the mapping of the brain through EEG. Quite interesting technology when you start looking into it. Like I said, people know a lot more than me, can take this much further than I. But right now, this is important for, I think, all of us to be aware of this. All right, the other thing, audio spotlight, we talked about that, and who they're targeting. And something else like the empathy machine. People wonder if that actually exists. The machine that actually focuses empathy and can actually reproduce it artificial-wise. So anyway, these are things that I believe, and especially when taking this into the hive mind and how that whole construct works, how we're getting these people that are hit with this all the time, these targeted individuals, and how this is an attempt to hijack the entire contact experience. Okay, you saw the graphs I showed earlier. The negative encounters are very small compared to the positive, but we don't hear about that in the media at all. And they're hitting so many individuals with this that I've now talked to, like I said, over 100 people to tell me they're a part of Kruger or a part of this and that, these different organizations that were all the Stark stuff. So that's what's going on right now, and that's how they're attempting to hijack the very contact experience, but not just that, this copying of everything, this copying of our consciousness. The other part of these people that are doing this other stuff, they're trying to hijack the divine oversoul. All right, now take this and correlate this back to what Linda Moulton Howe and other people have been saying for a long time. What is the obsessions that some of the ETs have with Homo sapien and the death process? Where do we go when we die? They don't know. There's something tripped out, something different going on there. So there's an attempt to hijack that and to oversoul and to copy it and do some type of a hijack. You're seeing it right now. Part of this battle between light and dark, and also explains why some of these individuals I've encountered, out of these hundreds and some, that some of them have this Artron energy I come at, that vibe that I know they've been either on a ship or around beings that are probably most likely of extraterrestrial or higher vibration. Okay, I can feel that energy coming off of them. But some of these people that are SSP, they're telling me, oh, I've been to the moon, Mars, but they don't have that vibe on them at all. Why not? See, this is a reason why, and why come a lot of us think that what they're saying isn't real. But it is real, what they're going through, the exposure to this technology. All right, that is real. It's enough to make us think everything is real, and it puts a whole other thing in there when dealing with what is this scalar frequency, this net I talked about, we come in here, how is it being implemented on the population here to help turn us into a more slavery society, galactic-wise. That's what's up. That's what we got to be aware of. We got to stop this hijack, all right? I'm sorry if I offended some people with this. They say, he's wrong. My experiences were real. Okay, you know, I can't say every person SSP is dealing with this. Some probably have real experiences. It's not for me. So it explains why some of that I'm not getting energy and that Artron energy off some of them, because they've been exposed to this, but that's just as real for them, okay? So I'm sorry if I'm offending some people. It's not for me to judge other people's experiences, all right? But by the same token, we got to really be aware of this. This is real technology. Everything I've talked about here, you can look up and take it much further than me. There's people way more experienced about this than I. This is where my experience is much more knowledgeable, but it's a beginning place, and I think it's important for all of us to hear this. And this is where my experiences, earlier ones, led me to discovering what's going on and the control that's happening here right now, all right? So it's time for us to break free of that and to kind of step forward and to kind of unite a little bit. I said before, I had got a little, when I first came forward, I got a little irritated with some people saying, oh, you're part of MJ12, I remember you. No, you don't. I wasn't part of that. They had no idea how much I looked through screen memories for stuff like that. All right, so don't try to put that on me. All right, it's not what I've been through. My experiences are total different. I've talked about them in over 200 videos on this channel. Please check it out. And I appreciate everybody. Thank you to people on Patreon. That's how this video was made. It's because of you. Please press the like button. Please subscribe. Share this video. People need to hear it, all right? And I appreciate all y'all, everyone that's trying to encourage me to go forward and taking time to watch the stuff I put out and acknowledging my presence. I thank you very much. Peace.
Ramsey. Ramsey.